Yeah, no.
Your question, Chief. File.
Calling case 2-4-57959 for state of Michigan versus Jelani Amed Shakoor. Defendant is charged in count 1 homicide, murder, second degree. Count 2 felony firearm. Count 3 weapons, firearms, possession by a prohibited person. Count 4 felony firearm. So I'm not sure why. Oh, defendant has a habitual offender, fourth offense, notice mandatory 25-year sentence. Appearances for the record.
Good morning, Your Honor. Mr. Murphy, on behalf of people,
Good morning, Your Honor. Robert Mullen on behalf of Mr. Shakoor to my left, P54827.
Tell us your name for the record, sir.
Jelani Amed Shakoor.
There's the date and time set for preliminary examination. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, the people are ready.
How many witnesses?
Your Honor, I anticipate probably 3,
Do you have any preliminary matters before you call your witnesses?
a couple, Your Honor. One,
Sure.
Your Honor, I believe that one stipulation to the identity of the deceased in this case, Alicia, that's ALICIA, and full common spelling, Ferguson, FERGUSON.
Okay, so stipulated for exam purposes only.
Correct, Your Honor.
Proceed to stipulation.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I would move to the admission of the ME report in this case, as well as the corresponding anatomical diagram. The ME report is the previously marked Staples Proposed Exhibit 2, and the corresponding anatomical diagram has been previously marked Staples Proposed Exhibit 3, and I would move for both proposed admissions under MCL 76608.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Admitted?
You're gonna be a public.
Yes.
There are one final preliminary matter. I have a sealed register of action for defendant Jelani Shakoor. This would be corresponding to count 3. Will formally felony possession of firearm. Now the legislation obviously changed the weapons firearms possession by a prohibited person. I did show this to defense counsel. That would be for submission under MCL 76611B. It's been previously marked as the proposed exhibit 1.
I'm not going to object as long as I have the purpose correct to show his prior why he's not allowed to have the firearm.
Correct.
I don't object.
Admitted?
May I publish the court?
Yes.
Your Honor, with that, the people would call Officer Clark.
Officer Clark. Good morning, sir. Please step forward, give your name and spelling to the court reporter. Raise your right hand, sir. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Please have a seat with the spots next to me. Yes, sir. Maybe give me your ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. Can you please state your first and last name?
Isaiah Clark,
How are you employed?
to the city of Detroit.
Were you working as an on-duty police officer on the date of June 17th, 2024?
Yes,
Okay, were you working alone or with a partner?
I was working with a partner,
Who was your partner?
Raphael.
First name,
Jaime Raphael.
I'm sorry,
Jaime Raphael.
could you spell the first name?
Sorry.
That's fair, okay, all right, so but Officer Raphael,
Yes.
okay, all right, so your duties as an on-duty police officer take you to the area of 2258 West Grand Boulevard, the city of Detroit, County, Queens.
Yes.
All right, so when you got to that location, was it light or dark out?
It was dark outside.
And when you got there, what happened?
When I arrived on scene, I observed Medic 7 in a rig outside of the location. The medics were standing outside. Broke some medics, spoke with them.
And so what was at that location?
It was an apartment complex.
Was this a big apartment complex, small one?
It was a large apartment.
All right, so you approached, you said that there were some medics there,
Yes.
and you spoke with them?
Yes.
All right, how many medics were there? Did you notice?
There were 2 minutes.
Did you speak with one or both?
I spoke with one.
And the medic that you spoke with, did you learn something from that medic that caused you to do something else?
Yes.
Okay, what was that?
I'm gonna object, it's gonna be hearsay from the medic.
Not offer for the truth of the matter, sir, why he took whatever action. I'll take it for that limited purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, so in regard to the conversation with the medic, and that's exactly where I was going in terms of what that medic told you to then lead you to do something else. So what did that medic tell you?
The medics advised me that they were told that the male subject they had in their rig had killed someone.
Okay, what other information did you learn that caused you to then do something else as your in your capacity with this officer?
They gave me his name, state of birth, where he lived. I entered the medic room, attempted to speak with the subject, and speaking with me.
Okay, all right, so fair to say that you said you learned the name of the individual?
Yes.
What was the name of the individual?
Jelani Shakoor.
All right, and was that the person that you identified in the rig that you just testified about?
Yes.
All right, if you can recall, were you in the back of that rig just very briefly, a matter of a couple seconds, matter of several minutes?
I believe it was approximately about 20 minutes.
All right.
I attempted to speak with him.
So you were back in the rig with Jelani Shakoor for approximately 20 minutes?
Yes.
All right, would you feel comfortable identifying the individual then if you saw that person?
Yes.
Okay, do you see that person in court?
Yes.
Could you please indicate where they're located and also identify an article of clothing that they're wearing?
He's sitting off to the right. Was wearing a green jeans.
Honor, the record of Dr. Witness to identify the defendant.
So, no,
All right, after you had that conversation with that initial medic, you said you attempted to make contact with the defendant. You said he wasn't really talking to you much.
No, man, he was kind of just sitting there with his head down.
You talked to you at all?
I asked him if he lived in apartment 217, and he nodded his head and private statements.
And then, based upon the information that you learned from the medic, and based upon the defendant saying he lived in apartment 217, what, if any, actions did you then take?
At that point, I advised the defendant that he was going to be detained for the comments made to the medics. And my partner and I were going to conduct a protective sweep of the apartment to check for any possible.
So did you and your partner in fact conduct a protective sweep?
Yes.
What happened when you conducted the protective sweep?
We made our way into the apartment. When I opened the door, I observed blood droplets on the floor leading into the living room. As we entered further in, I went into the living room, which was off to the right hand side. I observed a broken window and broken blinds with some blood on it as well. There was also a firearm on the windowsill that was covered by shattered glass.
Okay, if I can ask, this is all pertaining to the living room at this point?
At this point, yes.
Okay, so we have the broken window, the firearm, and then some blood on the floor,
Yes.
and then you mentioned some blood on some window backward. Blood on the
On the
window?
blinds.
On the
They
blinds.
appeared to be blood on the blinds.
suspected bud.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so after you made those observations, what, if anything, did you do next?
After that, we then continued further into the apartment. As we made our way down the hallway, I looked to my left, observed the bathroom. The bathroom door was open, the light was on. I then looked to the right, where I observed an open door towards the bedroom. As I turned the corner, that is when I found the victim, who was lying face up on the edge of the bed.
Okay, so you were inside of the room that the victim was in?
I didn't make complete entry into the room. I had medics standing by outside, so as soon as I observed her, I called the medics.
All right, and you mentioned that she was face up on the bed,
Yes,
so was she lying on her back on the bed?
yes, she was lying on her back, face up.
On her back face up on the bed?
Yes.
Okay, what if any observations did you make at that point of her?
I did notice a large amount of dry blood around the back of her head.
Okay, anything else?
It appears that she had been in a state of remorse. She was stiff.
You mentioned that at that point you had fully entered the room. Was there a point in time where you fully entered the room?
Yes, I did make a second entry up into the apartment. And I also observed the broken window in the bedroom as well, with the blinds that was broken.
Okay, and that's the same bedroom that the victim was found in?
Yes,
All right, would you recognize well, two photos of that, the bedroom you just described, the victim was found in?
yes,
You're on airport to witness?
Yes.
I handed you two sheets of paper. One has been previously marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 4, and the other has been previously marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 5. You just take a look at those two photos. You,
I do recognize exhibit 5.
did you say the
I
front?
do recognize exhibit 5 here. Is the broken window that was on the other side of the.
Okay,
where
so
the
you
victim was.
You indicated that you recognize Exhibit 5 there with the mark of People's Proposed Exhibit 5. That's a fair and accurate depiction of the room that you saw it to be in.
Yes,
Your Honor, people would mention People's Proposed Exhibit 5.
Any objection?
None.
Admitted?
And then the other photo, could you just take a look at that and to recognize that to also be a photo of a portion of that room that the victim was found in?
yes,
Okay, and can you just is that a fair and accurate depiction of what is depicted in that photo?
yes.
All right, what is depicted in that photo?
This is the glass and the blinds from the window that was on the other side.
Okay, Your Honor, people would move the admission of
No objection.
Admitted?
thank you. And Your Honor, may I'll help them to work.
Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, I have no further questions of this witness at this time.
Take care. Officer Clark, you go to report in this matter, would that be fair to say?
Correct.
And report writing is important to your job, correct? And when you wrote that report, you put everything important and relevant as it relates to what your investigation was or your observation.
Correct.
And you weren't under time constraints in writing that report, were you? That would have affected the quality of it.
Not as much time constraints as much as I was going past 16 hours. So.
You were on a 16-hour shift that day.
Correct.
Officer, when you work a 16-hour shift, how does that affect your the quality of your work?
At this point, I'm going to object to relevancy. If there's something you want to with, that's fine. But at this point, this is relevant.
Well, Your Honor, I think it goes to the overall. He mentioned, I asked him, if there's anything important relevant. He said, you know, the only issue might have been that I had worked with a double shift. I was asking him how that might affect him.
I'm allowed.
It didn't affect me that much. I did review my body cam as I was there. Make sure that it was correct.
Now, when you came upon Mr. Shakoor, he was in the back of the rig.
Correct.
Could you describe the condition that he was in? His injuries?
It appeared that he had a couple cuts or blood on top of his head and possibly some injuries to his wrist.
Now, did you inspect those injuries? Are you aware of anyone you were working with that inspected those injuries?
The medics would have inspected his injuries.
Are you aware of any photographs that were taken of his injuries?
The evidence techs made the hospital after he was transported there and took pictures of his injuries.
Do you know who those evidence techs would have been? Furthermore, Mr. Shakoor didn't really make any statements to you at all.
Mr. Shakoor made a direct statement to me besides the apartment that he was
Okay. And you eventually went to the hospital?
Correct.
Now, I want to backtrack. When you went through you did a protective sweep for the building. Did you call someone before you did that protective sweep?
Yes, we called the supervisor to this.
And they directed what you were supposed to do?
Correct.
And if I'm correct, you were to do a sweep of the building and find out if what the defendant allegedly said was true.
Correct.
And in doing so, obviously, you were to sweep the apartment and then to hold it for homicide or some other investigative division to come in and do what they do.
Correct.
And in the process, you were relieved by other officers taking over that scene at some point.
Correct.
Do you know who those officers were?
He would have to refer back to report, but I believe it was 10-3, 17.
Okay. Do you know how long it took them to get to you? I mean, how long you had been there before they came to relieve you? Was it apparent when you came into the apartment and you were doing that protective sweep? Is it your testimony that you noticed that blood around on the windowsill during that protective sweep?
Correct.
All right. And additionally, you noticed blood trails all throughout the apartment.
Correct.
It looked like they've got a struggle in there.
Possibly.
Okay. And do you know whose blood it was?
No,
And did you see blood on the walls?
I did not see blood on the walls.
But you saw it on the
Floor and the
and on the blinds. Okay. In addition to that, did you see any weapons besides the gun?
when I made an entry a second time, it was a case in the bedroom, but I didn't know if there was one.
When you say it was a case, what kind of case was it?
I believe it was a fire.
Firearms case? Okay. Now, did you get a good look at any of the injuries on my client?
I saw the back of his head.
Okay. Could you describe it?
It was very bloody, so it looked like cuts.
Okay. But you don't know how you received those cuts. Now, when you did a walk through the house, did you go in there more than one time?
I did go up a second.
Now, when you were in there, how did you determine how many shots, if any, were fired in the apartment?
I did not determine any shots.
Do you know if any shots were fired in the apartment?
Do not.
Do you know if there were any bullet holes inside the apartment that you were aware of, that you saw?
Not that I was.
Could you describe what kind of gun it was?
It was a silver handgun with a black handle.
Do you know if they found any spent shells? Are you familiar with any of the ballistic evidence that might have found in that apartment?
No, at that point in time, I was on my way to the defendant to the hospital.
And you have no idea what may have transpired to the parties that would have caused the gunshot wound.
As I said before, he never spoke to me about what happened that night, so
I mean, how about through your investigation? Did you see anything that would tip you off that you know what happened?
not based off of what I found.
Did you observe the client, did you observe the defendant to be on drugs?
I did observe drugs at the scene, outside of the apartment where his hands were.
Well, and then during that part of the investigation, you didn't come across anyone that actually saw him possess those drugs. Now, on that particular day, it was raining as well as it was dark. Is that true?
Correct.
And how many officers do you think came through that apartment after you did your protective sweep?
All I know of is the scout that came to relieve us, and the supervisor that was on the scene.
Okay, so maybe 5 of you into the apartment that you're aware of?
Maybe 3,
Okay, was anyone wearing anything over their shoes because of the rain?
you know.
And there was blood on the carpet, you have noticed?
I do not believe this all blood.
Now, people were coming in and out of that apartment, and they were coming in and out of the rain. Is that true?
As I said, I was already at the hospital, so I don't know who was coming from the apartment after we left this.
How about when you were there?
We were there, only the officers that came to relieve us, the whole scene were the only ones that were there, as well as the supervisor.
All right, and they would have been coming in and out of the rain at that time. It was raining at the time you got there. Would that be fair to say?
It was started raining after we had done our protective sweep.
Okay. So that when you went back in a second time, it was starting to rain?
Yes.
Just a minute. Ron. I don't need further questions.
You redirect?
No, no.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Before I comment, I mentioned this, via email to you guys, but I'll just say it here, so I'll ask the court to sign the warrant. I just should have mentioned that, preliminary matters, but I mentioned that. Via email.
All right, you've been put on this conversation.
I'm on notice, Your Honor. I think she can amend it at any time.
It's fair, but I just, you know.
Just in case you wanted to examine.
Your Honor, the people call EMT firefighter Flowers.
Sir, please step forward, give your name and the spelling of your name to the court reporter. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. Spots next to me. Maybe give me ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. Can you please state your first and last name?
Sergeant Flowers,
And how are you employed?
I'm a firefighter.
Okay, and were you working in that job capacity on June 16th, 2024?
Yes,
And did your job really take you to the area of 2258 West Grand Boulevard, in Detroit County, Wayne? Okay,
Did you say June 16th or June 17th?
and June 17th. And do you work alone or do you typically work with another individual?
The two of us, like, in my part.
Okay, who was your partner that day?
I'm regularly.
When you got to that location, can you just describe what happened?
By at first, we noted an individual that was naked in the street, so we stopped going to the end to help him out of the back.
All right, was that individual a man or a woman? You just, did you get a good look at that individual?
Yes.
All right, did you at some point identify who that person was?
Yes, we got the first name and everything, so it's like
All right, and what was the name of that person?
July.
What time?
July.
Okay, did you get a last name?
I remember that his last name, but we did put it.
Okay, with, looking at, a document, indicating the last name, would that refresh your memory, can you the last name of this person? Mayor Pro Tem.
Ma'am,
Great, sir, I just handed you, a sheet of paper, and if you could just read the top of it, and if that refreshes your memory, let me know. Okay, is your memory refreshes to the individual's last name? What was his last name? Shakoor?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so after you identified who this person was, you identified their first and last name, did you speak to that person? All right, and did you learn any information?
Yes.
What did you learn?
So after speaking with him, we tried to figure out why he was outside and without his clothes on. And then at that point in time, every individual was crying to us, and explaining everything that happened. Just stated that what transpired in the apartment.
What did he say transpired in the apartment?
He stated that he killed an individual in there, and once he did that, we called our supervisor, stayed on scene, stopped out there, stated that killed someone, and he stated that he killed multiple people.
You stated that he killed multiple people?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the individual that you are indicating that you spoke with, who stated he killed someone in that apartment, you identified as Jelani Shakoor, would you recognize that person again if you saw them? All right, can you see that person in court? Okay, could you please indicate where that person is located and also identify an article of clothing they're wearing?
Stated to my right.
Did you write with green on?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness is identified as the defendant?
so moved.
Thank you. Now, after you, learned that of the defendant, after he indicated he killed someone in the apartment, what if any actions did you take next?
After that, we kept calling for our supervisor, for scout to make scene. And we kind of kept our distance from him, try to keep him calm and try to take his mind off of what happened.
All right, was there a point in time when you went in the apartment?
Yes.
Okay, what happened when you went in the apartment?
After we went up to the apartment with scout, we noted that there was a dead body. I checked for like this. There was no like present at the scene.
Do you recall any observations that you made of the deceased person? What did you observe?
I observed scratches on her. I observed some darker bruising around her neck and a bunch of blood.
Okay, anything else? All right, did you make any other, observations while you were in the apartment?
Yes.
What if anything else did you observe?
As we were standing there with scout, I noted a bullet hole on the wall. I noticed that there was a bullet hole like, on the top part of the walls. Blood everywhere. That's what perfect. That's it.
Okay, you said broken glass everywhere, was that, just help me understand, is that, well, just, when you say broken glass everywhere, what room are you referring to?
So the first coming in, there was a little living room area to the right. Window right there, but the guy coming from there, and you see trails of blood going to the back room where she was.
Do you recall the positioning of, the deceased?
Yes.
How was she positioned?
You could say that she was on her back and her legs were almost hanging off the bed. And she was like at an angle from the bed.
right. I know for the question this time.
Prosecutor,
Sir,
Did you write a report this better, an EMT report? Did you write an EMT report with your partner? Did you guys write it together or you write separate ones?
Since it was, he was kind of new, and it was, since it was a big team, we both kind of worked together.
Okay, was he in training at that time or not?
No, he officially signed off on his own, but he is still kind of lacking insight on certain things.
How would you describe Mr. Shakoor's, state of mind when you run into him? If you can.
When I first ran into him, I thought like maybe he's on something just of how he was presenting himself and how he was talking and answering questions.
Did you think he was on drugs?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that affected how he reacted to you?
Judge, I'm kind of shocked, I mean, in terms of how we react, the objection speculation.
it is, but
How often do you come in contact with people on drugs? And do you think that in your job, in your experience, that when you come in contact with people with drugs, that they act differently than when they're not on drugs?
Yes.
In addition to that, when you saw Mr. Shakoor, did he have any injuries on him?
Yes.
What kind of injuries did he have?
Some scratches on the arm, some on the hands, some scratches on the back of the head. I believe that's it.
How about a laceration on the top of his head?
Yes.
Yeah, did he have more than one?
It looked, yes, yes. It was.
Did you get a good look at that?
Yes.
How deep was that cut?
I would say the laceration size is about 1 inch to 2 inches, and then I think we would judge how deep it was.
Okay. And so he had quite a few, it looked like the two parties had been in a struggle.
Possibly, yes.
Sure. Now, do you know if anyone cataloged the injury to Mr. Shakoor?
Can you explain?
Yeah, when I mean catalog, I mean took pictures of it, preserved it.
We documented.
You did?
We-
And did you guys clean it out yourselves?
Yes.
Do you know what would cause an injury like that?
Judge, I know it's objective speculation.
no foundation.
All right.
It's the same.
The laceration that you saw, did it look like something that would have been caused by a fist? Did it look like something that could have been caused by an object? It wasn't a fist
Possibly,
or a weapon.
possibly.
In addition, you had indicated while you were in the apartment that you saw multiple bullet holes, either in the wall as well as the ceiling.
So there was, when you first went to the apartment, it was one on the right hand, on that first wall, and then it was one, like, from the wall to the right level.
Do you know at least two?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how many bullets, if any, how many bullets, that were, in the victim? Sure. I just want to clarify, were there any bullet holes in the ceiling?
Not the first one, the top part of the wall.
Top of the wall. Would it be fair to say, just based on your observations of being there, that more than one bullet was fired? You're not sure? Now, when you look at the injuries, on Mr. Shakoor, could you tell how old they were? No? How about the injury on his head?
It looked fresh, so not exactly what it.
Did you notice any other injuries than what you described about scratches, marks on his arms, bruising, and on his head?
No.
Do you know how many people were coming in and out of the apartment when you were there? Or if a number of people that were in the apartment? How many times did you go in the apartment?
Was that program?
Did you see anything that had to do with the firearm, like shell casings or bullets? Did you see any blood anywhere in the apartment? Where was it?
It was blood initially, when we first walked in, just droplets and photos of blood leading to the bathroom.
Okay, would that have been on the carpet?
think that was hardwood that I saw.
Okay.
Hardwood.
Right, but it was on the floor,
Yes.
and it's your testimony, it was a trail of blood, and you don't know whose blood it was. I don't have any further questions, John.
Can you redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Flowers, is it possible that the injuries he noted, and is it possible that it caused himself?
I'm gonna object, Your Honor, speculative.
Understood. Now, in regard to, you mentioned bullet holes, you're not a ballistics expert, is that correct? Okay, and, you're not trained to recognize bullet holes, correct? Now, it's possible that those holes or indentations in the walls could have been something else.
Yes.
Okay, you just assumed that they were possibly bullet holes,
Yes, ma'am.
or based upon your observation of the disease?
Yes.
Understood. Nothing else, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may speak.
Your Honor, the final witness, you will be protected during blood documentary.
Please raise your right hand, sir. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you, sir. Please have a seat.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you please state your name
Detective Aaron Caldwell,
and how are you playing?
City of Detroit.
All right, and are you the officer in charge of this Jelani Shakoor case?
Yes, I am.
All right, and is your job duties as officer in charge, is it fair to say your job is to marshal the evidence and give it to the prosecutor?
Yes.
All right, and did you review the evidence in this case?
Yes.
Did you review photographs in this case?
Yes.
All right, were some of those photographs taken of the defendant?
Yes.
All right, and would you recognize some of those photos, well, would you recognize the photograph taken of the defendant that was part of the evidence that you reviewed and gave to the prosecutor?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Right, Detective Paul, any what's been previously marked as table proposed exhibit 6, what do you recognize that photo to be?
The bruise of the defendant's chest area.
Okay, and is it fair to say the photos that you viewed and marshaled to the prosecutor's office, you saw other photos taken of the defendant?
Yes.
All right, and he would have been at the hospital?
Yes.
Okay, and is that a fair and accurate depiction of what you know to be a photo of taken of the defendant?
Yes.
All right, Your Honor, people would move for admission of people for open exhibit 6.
Any objections?
I just want to ask a couple questions before it's
Okay.
admitted. Sir, you didn't take that photograph, right?
Correct.
And by looking at that photograph, can you tell how contemporaneous the injuries are or the bruising is?
How?
How old it is?
No, I cannot.
So you got a picture of a bruise, but you really don't know what to connect it to as far as the time.
Correct.
No further questions.
No questions, please.
Any objections to the admission?
Thank you, Amy.
Admitted?
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you publish it for?
Sure.
And then just a couple more questions for you, Detective. Did you go to the scene of this incident?
Yes, I did.
All right, and that was at 2258 West Grand Boulevard, apartment 217 in the city of Detroit.
Yes.
All right, how many, well, do you recognize if there to be any bullet hole in the wall?
Yes.
All right, how many were there?
There was one.
There was only one? All right,
Yes.
and how did you recognize it to be a bullet hole in the wall?
I was just saying, based on training and experience, I got the way the hole itself was shaped, just recognizing.
Okay, all right, Your Honor, I have nothing further for this witness to speak.
This exhibit 6 that was entered by the people, this bruise, you said this is under the defendant's chest.
Yes,
Is this also consistent with what looks like a bite mark maybe?
yes.
All right. How far was the deceased victim from this bullet hole that was in the wall?
So it appeared that the bullet hole from the bedroom where the deceased was found, it went through the wall, which would be the kitchen on the other side. Hole itself.
Now, autopsy report, I gathered that the deceased victim was shot in the neck. Is that right? Was that a 313 gunshot wound?
It was not.
Any questions based on my questions?
Okay.
I don't know. Do you have any questions based on my questions?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir. You may start.
Well, sir, Your Honor, I don't think I got that.
Oh, you didn't do prompts?
Yes, sir.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
No worries, Your Honor. Sir, are you familiar with a sketch of the assault? There is a crime scene of the unit prepared of the apartment. There was a crime scene sketch. Have you seen that? So, yeah,
You may.
if you were to stop me, sir,
Yes,
could you mark on that photo where the bullet holes you observed or the bullet hole you observed?
So Judge, if we could just maybe, I'll stipulate if this defense wants to make it exhibit A or something like that, just that way we're talking about it.
Are you moving to it?
Well, I don't know what his answers are yet. So, yeah, I may or may not want to exhibit to admit it.
Well, at this point, then, we're talking about the document has been admitted to that.
That's how it is.
Show me where you think the mark on that piece of paper where you think the bullet. Yeah, from there. In the closet.
yes.
I guess the issue is, we gotta make a record of this, so he's, you know, indicated a notation on the document, we need to make a record where he notated that. That's why I would stipulate the admission exhibit.
I've also asked, well, I want to ask some questions about this document.
Are you moving for the admission of that document?
I got it. Do I need to question on it? I don't think so. Thank you.
Just in terms of making a record of it, can we indicate where exactly he noted on the document?
Sure. Sir, would it be fair to say that you noted the one bullet hole that you observed would have been in the closet of the bedroom where the victim was found?
Yes, it goes through the wall and the kitchen.
And you had previously testified to that on the record.
Correct.
Were there any spots in this apartment based on the sketch where there could have been holes that you determined were not bullet holes?
I believe there was other parts and spots and walls that were not,
And how did you determine whether or not there were bullet holes or not?
just based on their parents' training experience.
Additionally, we've heard testimony of 2 windows being broken out in that apartment. Have you ruled out that more than 2 bullets were fired during this incident?
No,
So there's the possibility in the scope of this investigation that more than 2 bullets were fired.
it is possible.
You had mentioned in your training and experience in determining what a bullet hole is or isn't. Is there any objective criteria that you can think of that would help you determine whether a bullet hole is a bullet hole or just a hole in the wall, push through with something else?
Can't think of it.
In addition to that, were you aware how many shell casings were found at the scene?
Yes.
How many?
One,
And how many bullets?
there was one shell casing in the gun, which is a revolver, and there was one live round.
Okay, so how many bullets did that revolver hold?
I don't remember, it's either 5 or 6.
And all this, and that's a cylinder, when you're talking about a revolver. The holes in the cylinder weren't all filled.
Correct.
Right, you said there was only one shell casing and one live bullet in that cylinder?
No, there's only one shell casing in the gun. The live round found in the double bag or backpack.
Are you aware of any fingerprints that were on the gun?
At this time,
So as of right now, you don't have any of that forensic evidence?
no, that's all, that's allowed.
Okay, and that would go the same with any of the DNA testing,
Correct.
any of the blood, any of that?
Correct.
And you, throughout your investigation, you didn't encounter anyone who had witnessed the events that occurred in that apartment?
Can you elaborate on the witness?
Physically saw?
Physically, something.
No. Anyone who could tell you what happened in that apartment? between those two?
No further questions, Your
Can you redirect?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. You have witnesses for the people?
Okay.
Any witnesses for the defendant? People?
If you're under the people who provide over, the people would ask this court to find over on the defendant count one of the first degree premeditated murder. Based upon the evidence that the court received into evidence, two being photos of the bedroom that the victim was found in. Also based upon the testimony from the first officer who testified, the people would submit to the court signs of struggle. Being first starting in the living room of a broken window, glass on the ground, there was testimony of some blood, suspected blood.
Doesn't that scream second degree murder?
No, Your Honor, because and I'll explain why. So in regards to the living room, we have signs of possible struggle in the living room. We also have signs of another struggle leading into the bedroom. The people's theory there, and based upon both the ME report as well as the corresponding anatomical diagram, the court received into evidence that there was a struggle, and the people's theory is that the defendant was essentially throwing the victim around, and the labs in are pending coming back. But the theory is that the defendant, and based upon the evidence is consistent with this theory, that the defendant got the victim on the bed, got on top of the victim, straddling the victim, and then shot the victim basically, as the court can see from the ME report, at basically point blank range in the side of the neck as he was over her straddling. Now, that picture, People's Exhibit 6 of what I would submit to the court as a suspected bite mark, is also consistent with her being underneath him, struggling to get out and having bit him while this struggle was happening. So that is consistent with, we have signs of a struggle in the living room. We have consistent with signs of struggle in the bedroom. And the photo of the bedroom with the broken blinds and the glass and the curtain rod on the floor, my argument in theory, and I believe the evidence is consistent with this, is that the victim, probably as she was being thrown around, was grabbing onto whatever she could, including those curtains, and which got ripped down. And the court can see kind of the holes in the wall up at the top of that photo where there was a curtain rod in that wall. And then the defendant was successful in getting her on the bed, getting on top of her, and then there was clearly a struggle going on. Again, there looks to be a fresh bite mark here. Obviously, the court knows at this level, that's enough for a trier of facts to determine, did the defendant have time to premeditate and deliberate his actions of what he was about to do next? I would submit to the court that he did, because all of this evidence taken together, there's time elapsing, and as the court knows, there's no set amount of time that it takes for an individual to premeditate and deliberate what they're about to do next. But we have signs of a struggle in the living room. We have signs of a struggle in the bedroom. We have evidence that the victim was shot at point blank range in the side of the basically lower head, upper neck area. And signs to show that she has abrasions on her hands, on her neck area, on her chest area. There is a suspected bite mark on the defendant's chest where there's time elapsing during all of this. So based upon the evidence submitted before this court, I believe that there would be enough for a trier of fact to determine did the defendant in fact have the ability to premeditate and deliberate his actions when he killed this woman. Of course, we have a confession, but you know, in regard to the first degree murder issue, and furthermore, judges, the court can see in the ME report, this was a very small woman. She was 5'5", she was 103 pounds, she was little. And we don't need exact, you know, height and body weight of the defendant. The court can see here today, the defendant is a big guy. With all of this taken together, there was enough time, based upon what's on this record, by way of testimony, by way of exhibits, for the defendant to premeditate and deliberate his actions. There would be a question of fact, and people would ask for buying the first degree murder. And of course, the corresponding counts of felony firearm and possession by.
You know, I do realize a probable cause is a low standard, but it's not possible cause. Everything I've heard about this fight, this struggle, this throwing around the apartment, there's no evidence to support that that's actually what happened. And reason being is we don't have any of the forensics. I think she would have a much better argument if she could put all this together backed up by science. There's nothing that's backing up the position that she's taken for a binocular on a murder one. There's nothing that can determine what deliberation went into what actions. And in fact, we heard the testimony. There was a struggle. They have no information on what actually caused that struggle or what happened in that apartment. I asked specifically if there were witnesses that saw what happened, that could testify to actually what happened in their apartment. We gotta know. And the importance of that is this. We heard evidence of the condition of Mr. Shakoor. We also heard evidence of the injuries that he had, a gash on a laceration on the top of his head that the EMT said was not done by a fist. And why is that important? Because, you know, the prosecutor wants you to rule out the possibility of a self-defense in this case, and we fully intend to put on a self-defense in this case. And there's no evidence whatsoever that would be opposite of that position from us of having a self-defense argument. There's been no evidence whatsoever that has been put forth that determined how this occurred. We know that the client had made a statement that he had killed somebody. We know that that's been put into evidence, but there's nothing around that that indicates how that happened or under the facts and circumstances that happened. And the prosecution has an absolute duty on all the burden of evidence on the elements. And we didn't hear that, not in this preliminary exam, not at all. And we don't even know if the victim's fingerprints are on the gun, or whose fingerprints are on the gun, or on the shell casings, or any of that. And we heard there was not a rule out of more than 2 bullets being fired. They didn't know. And one additional thing about the fight, I asked specifically to the officer if he could tell how old that injury was. He testified he couldn't. And the prosecutor indicates it's a fresh bite mark. It supports some kind of suffocation theory, but there's no testimony. And in fact, when the bite mark was admitted into evidence and given to you, it was specifically testified that they didn't know how old that bite mark was or when it was from, or if it was contemporaneous from the event. So for all those reasons, I don't think the murder one attempt by the prosecutor has any legs based on any evidence we've heard. I'm even questioning a murder two based on the evidence we heard, but it's still a probable cause conference. And at this point, I don't have witnesses I'm putting forth to put our theory of the case on to try to convince you otherwise. With that, Your Honor, I stand on the cross-examination.
So in regards to the next, this is something I failed to mention, I will. There of course was testimony from the EMT, the medic, that there was some scratches on the defendant's arm, head, and hands, which again go to support my theory, and again go to support that photo, People's Exhibit 6, that the defendant got this victim onto the bed after, the signs of the struggle, because I would agree, Judge, if we didn't have the other things, for example, the bite mark photo and the evidence that there was a situation where he literally is climbing on top of the victim. That's what the evidence supports, and reasonable inferences can be drawn from, evidence or substantial evidence. If it's just signs of a struggle, I'm with the court, I agree. That is indicative of a murder too, but there's more than just the signs of the struggle. It starts with the signs of the struggle. It starts with the signs of the struggle in the living room. It starts, then it, spills over or, addition to the signs of the struggle in the bedroom, and go to support my theory that the defendant is throwing the victim around, if you will. But we have evidence to show that this woman is on the bed, she's on her back, she is very small, and she clearly, in my opinion, based on the evidence, reasonable inferences can be drawn, she was fighting for her life, but that wasn't a fight she was going to win given the size differential. But that bite mark is enough at this level to support there was time elapsing, that he climbed on her, that he reached around and he shot her point blank right in the side of the neck. And as this is happening, or maybe slightly before, my theory to the court is that she bit him. He was struggling and fighting, and there was enough time for him to premeditate what he was about to do. He had to reach over while he was on top of her, straddling her. I believe the evidence supports that he was, in fact, on top of her, straddling her, and that there would be enough on this record to support a bind over for a trier of facts to determine the issue of first degree murder. And with that, if there is any additional questions, I will answer them, but I will just move for mine.
Okay, so very difficult thing about the situation is there were only two people present during this altercation. One of them is not here, and the other person has a constitutional right not to say anything. And I don't have his version as to what took place in that, other than what was testified to by another witness who said that he killed him. So people initially charged second-degree murder. Elements of second-degree murder are a death caused by an act of the defendant with malice and without justification. And malice is defined as the intent to kill, the intent to do great bodily harm, or the intent to act in a want, both in disregard of the likelihood that the natural tendency of such behavior is to cause death or great bodily harm. Whenever we have a fight or a struggle, so to speak, to me, that screams second-degree murder as opposed to first-degree murder premeditated. Although the law specifies that there is no amount of time that is required to establish first-degree murder premeditated. It could be years, it could be months, it can be weeks, it can be days, it can be hours, minutes, seconds. Just so long as it gives that person enough time to reflect on what they're doing before they take that action. Difficulty here is that we don't know what took place, that we can speculate based on broken glass, the disheveling of the room and so forth, but we have no idea what actually took place in there. Physical evidence we're left to deal with is that she died as a contact gunshot wound to the side of the neck, and the defendant has a bite mark somewhere on his chest. That's all I'm really left with. I don't think that there's enough evidence here, unless I'm going to speculate purely, to bind over on first-degree murder premeditated. We will certainly have a second-degree murder, which was the people's original charge. The court finds that people have met that burden of probable cause as it relates to second-degree murder, the original count one, as well as the felony firearm, the possession by a prohibited person, and the accompanying felony firearm. The court found those charges were committed in the city of Detroit. And the court finding probable cause to believe this defendant will bind the defendant over to Wayne County Third Circuit Court Criminal Division for further proceedings. His arraignment on the information date and time will be July 23rd, 2024, at 9 o'clock a.m. Defendant will be remanded to the custody of
What judge has been, it's been found over to, do you have the name of the actual, judge?
Oh, we don't know. Okay.
Enjoy more of our videos on the Community Advocate Network channel. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you would like to advertise your service, special announcement, or event, you may contact us at the Community Advocate Network at gmail.com. For community resources or services, visit our website at www.canmichigan.com.